Hey guys, SuperHorrorBro Mike here, and in this video we take a look at the monsters and secrets of the latest DLC for Spooky's Jumpscare Mansion, the Dollhouse. This creepy final chapter of the Spooky saga closes the book on the story, as well as paying homage to plenty of classic video games along the way. It also introduces a host of terrifying new specimens for us to run screaming from, and today we take a look at each and every one. So sit back, relax, and let's explore the Haunted Mansion one last time. First up is this creepy baby-like doll known as the Hersk. As we discover when uncovering the story behind the dollhouse, these husks were used to trap the spirits of the dead, many of whom were children, and reanimate them back into existence. A process set in motion by the director of GL Labs' Spooky's father in a desperate bid to find a way to return his daughter to the realm of the living. However, the spirits fought back against this process as it was said to be painful for them, and so rituals were used to keep them locked inside these husks. When analysing the bodies of these dolls, we can see signs of long-term damage sustained by these twisted experiments. Their shells are cracked and stained in blood, and chests split wide open. The husk's face and hair is singed, with part of its lower jaw missing completely. These horrifyingly botched experiments amble around slowly, often attacking in groups. They are easy enough to avoid one-on-one, but the larger the number, the harder escape becomes. If we are taken down by a husk, the following game over screen plays out. A message reads, "Scarlet burning holes are placed into the skin and flesh rebounds into an unfamiliar form, moulded into something new. The husk reshaped into a skin more accepting of the howling void." There is, however, a way to fight back against these tragic figures. If we place down our companion doll and regain control of the axe, it makes short work of them. They then melt into a goopy mess on the floor, perhaps finally at peace. Next, we move on to a secret. In this room, we discover a note which describes a ghostly moaning sound the author has heard around the mansion. It also references a painting said to transform before their very eyes. In this same room, we notice there is in fact a painting. It displays the face of a young child, but doesn't seem to transform, at least not at first. This footage is sped up and reveals the subtle changes that occur if we stand idly by this portrait for too long. It becomes something quite disturbing to say the least. The second enemy we encounter in the Dollhouse DLC is also one of the scariest. His name is Wormy Charles, and this is because he resembles a giant earthworm with a porcelain doll's head melded to the top. This doll head is nightmarish as it features no real expression, just deep black eyes and a tiny mouth. From the way Wormy Charles moves, it seems, just like a worm, he lacks any kind of skeletal structure within his fleshy body. He lays dormant within a sealed room, only springing to life when we collect the key he guards. Nearby, a note, seemingly written by this unfortunate specimen, reads, "I don't fit in this. I can't stretch, or else I break. They did this to me." Once again, it seems the soul trapped within Charles's worm-like body is in constant pain and discomfort, a fate he exacts on our soul if we are killed while encountering him. Form within form writhes and pulses. Skeletal sinews stretch outward from beneath the skin wrapped around it. It pulls until the skin's elasticity fails ultimately. From these small holes, the tendrils of bone finally escape. You are finally free of this constricted bag of flesh. After we first encounter Wormy, he will go on to spawn randomly throughout the dollhouse. If he spots us, he gives chase, draining our stamina and catching up in mere seconds due to his lightning fast speed. However, he can be defeated with the axe. Wait until he bows his head and then strike. After hacking for some time, he is eventually defeated, but maybe just run. Spooky's Dollhouse has two main endings, one good and one bad. These are unlocked dependent on our actions during the game. To unlock the bad ending, simply set Spooky's soul free using the spirit seal, and then escape via the tram system before the mansion detonates. The following end scene will then play out. With the seal broken, the spirits trapped in the mansion can go free. However, the gate to hell was left open. A flood of terror spills outward. The horrors that were once contained within the mansion can now reach the surface. You have escaped into a doomed world. However, if we put a little more work in before donating the doll to save Spooky, then a more conclusive and upbeat ending can be achieved. This ritual room requires 3 candles, and these are collected by returning to the root cellar after we first visit it to collect the GL Labs keycard. Once these candles are in our possession, they can be placed around the ritual ring and a nearby game console used to summon one of several specimens we encounter during our adventure through the main game. Interesting side note, if we summon Specimen 4, the ghostly schoolgirl, and let her kill us, a brand new game over screen now appears. Check it out. By returning these specimens to the Hellgate and then completing the final stage with Spooky, we are in return greeted by a very different ending after escaping the facility. With the seal broken, the spirits trapped within the mansion can now go on, and with the Hellgate shut, the terrors that seeped through begin to fade away. Spooky has moved on, and rests with her parents now. Somehow, despite all of the horror within the mansion, you brought peace to it all. While these are the 2 main endings, there are 2 more that are not so known about. The first of these occurs if we do not make it off-site before detonation. A horrifying image of our character burning alive is displayed, along with the text, "Your form becomes tiny droplets of charred, withered flesh." The final ending is unlocked if we prematurely attempt to leave the facility. If we board the tram before resolving Spooky's story, then at first, all seems well. However, after a while, we still haven't reached the surface, and something scary awaits in the darkness up ahead. This is of course Specimen 9, and if you'd like more information on him, go check out my previous videos looking at all the monsters found in the original release of Spooky's Jumpscare Mansion. Clowns are amongst the creepiest of all horror icons, and so it's no surprise the demonic caged variant found within the dollhouse is absolutely skin-crawling. You certainly wouldn't want this particular clown showing up at your birthday party. The clown is dressed in spotty shorts and a striped yellow jumper. His face features an inhumanly large grin full of stained teeth, with black lipstick around his lifeless eyes and mouth. He giggles cruelly as he taunts us within his cell. Each time we turn our backs on this creepy figure, he changes his stance. A note mentions that this clown was summoned from the Hellgate to try and bring joy and happiness to the spirits of the children tethered to these dolls, but instead, they were terrified. We see evidence of this when bringing our own doll into this room, at which point she covers her eyes in panic. When we leave the room, the clown bids us farewell. And later, upon returning to his playroom, we find the cage holding the clown prisoner has now been vandalized and he has escaped into the dollhouse. We now hear his laugh at random points as we explore the remainder of the game. He will even show up on occasion to taunt us. However, we cannot harm him, and for whatever reason, he does not harm us either. So, a placid monster, but no less unsettling. Next, let's take a look at a bunch of Quickfire Easter eggs contained within the dollhouse. The first can be found when looking at the rug beneath the save point in the main hall. At a first glance, it appears to be a fairly normal piece of carpet, but to look closer, and we see there are contorted faces screaming out, which appear as patterns and stains all across the material. Chilling to say the least. Next is this hole in the wall. It seems harmless enough until we reach inside, at which point our arm is held in place and we are attacked by an unknown entity. This hole seems to be based upon popular SCP entry SCP-1162, an entity which manifested as a hole within a cinderblock wall whose depth varied depending on the person reaching inside. Later on, we discover an arcade machine called Doug. This tells the story of a GL Lab employee who went mining for ancient relics and encountered many demonic entities along the way. However, the machine is a play on words, representing the classic arcade game from the 1980s, Dig Dug. If we are killed while playing Doug, the following voice is heard at the game over screen. This is a homage to the voice heard within recent game Faith,
My nightmares are getting worse,
which is a retro-themed indie horror title with a similar end screen. Another classic video game reference can be seen here when looking at the Kira game system. It is modelled after the look of Sega's Mega Drive, or Genesis if you are an American viewer. This is of course Sega's classic game console from the early 1990s. Finally, you may notice how the expression of the doll we carry around subtly alters throughout the game. Most of the time it has the expression seen here, but occasionally it will look at the player and smile. When encountering Spooky, her father, and while at her mother's grave, we see tears rolling down its cheeks. The doll covers its face during certain sequences too. This makes for an unnerving experience, as we never know quite how the doll will greet us when moving from room to room. Frenzy is the name of this terrifying looking shadow woman. She is completely blackened as if charred by flame, with white pupil-less eyes and large teeth constantly exposed due to her lack of lips. In her hand she carries a falcata knife. Frenzy doesn't appear for very long. In fact, she only seems to appear in this one bedroom, and only after we have escaped the root cellar for the first time. Upon entering this room, we hear a bone-chilling noise and are then rushed by the spooky shadow-like figure. It is very hard to die to Frenzy, as she only takes off a small amount of health each time she materialises. However, it is possible, and the following game over screen appears if we do. Frenzied torment, distorted mind, blood to spill, bones to grind, the flesh it takes for time to wind, eye for eye makes all turn blind. When entering this room located just off the main hall, we hear a strange clicking sound. But where is this noise coming from? Well, don't look up unless you want a nasty surprise. Clicky is a rather disturbing secret indeed, a doll who crawls on the ceiling of this room and follows the player's every move. She has a wound in the centre of her forehead, and it almost looks like a bullet hole. This becomes even more suspicious after we read a note located on the table within this very room. This note is written by a little girl who describes how she murdered her father with a gun and was quickly committed to a mental asylum thereafter by her mother. It seems likely the spirit of this girl ended up within the Clicky doll and now forever haunts the dollhouse. More evidence of this can be found when encountering Clicky for the second time within the depths of GL Labs. In a room filled with blood, she can now be seen crawling in the vents below. These monsters are known as nightmares and appear during the segment where we experience Spooky's father's PTSD. They cannot kill us as they are essentially demonic visions, there to torment a man who seems to be suffering trauma as a result of time served during World War II. We know this as they wear military helmets that look very similar to those worn by German soldiers during said conflict. They also carry weapons of the time, namely anti-tank rifles, which have been fused to their bullet-ridden bodies. Their faces are a mush of flesh with no distinguishing features. All we can do is shoot wildly at these apparitions of the past as they fly towards us to attack. For our final secret, let's take a look at a selection of secret game overscreens. It's likely you may not have seen these, as you have to be pretty foolish to experience them. The first of these death screens can be seen if we repeatedly cut ourselves on the barbed wire covering this sealed doorway. The next one can be unlocked in this room. After placing the doll on this pedestal, a large electrical force field is activated in front of this door. It provides quite the shock if we touch it, and will eventually kill us, at which point a shocking game over screen is displayed. Finally, after placing the doll hands in this furnace and turning up the heat, open the door and let the flames consume you. In turn, this will activate a secret game over screen with the following text. The burns boiled and grow until they burst into tiny holes, of which they could finally crawl out and into this world. You have become the gateway. To close out this video, let's take a look at one final enemy. In the root cellar beneath GL Labs, we find this sinister looking human-sized doll strung up by a series of hooks. She has grey skin and her hands and feet seem to be severed, with stumps in their place. This doll resembles many female ghosts from Japanese horror, most notably The Ring. We discover through a series of notes from workers at the lab that this was yet another victim of the cruel and twisted research conducted by Spooky's father and his team. Research that led the tortured soul within this doll to exact a cruel revenge of her own upon anyone unfortunate enough to encounter her. In this case, us. When entering a room, all seems fine. It isn't until we look at the hooked doll that she attacks. Once our eyes lock with the doll, she flies towards us through the air at high speeds, as static clouds our vision. Her attacks are swift and deadly. If we fall to the hooked doll, the following scene plays out. A wicked, nasty child was thrown into a pit. No food, light or water was ever given to it. Punishment was dealt without mercy or hesitation, as if justified by faith or ownership from creation. It was no righteous act, it was hellish, demon sent. Eventually all will find out in eternal torment. It seems the spirit within this doll saw a cruel end, now seeks revenge against anyone who dare cross her path. And with that, we have come to the end of today's video. I hope you did enjoy it, and if you did, remember to leave a like, comment down below, and of course subscribe for more horror-related content. Thanks for watching, and I will see you on the next video.